So, believe it or not, we still have not completed our journey into the remarkable red record as it relates to creation. Now, we're going to continue that journey tonight. This is Genesis Week. And a welcome to this episode of Genesis Week, the weekly program of creationary commentary on news, views, and events pertaining to the Origins controversy, made possible by you, the supporters of Core Ottawa, Citizens for Origins Research and Education. Excellence in pirate broadcasting, we secretly set up our studios in a buried and forgotten railway tunnel underneath the city of Ottawa. Now, hey Ian, there's an abandoned train down here. Something we've got to see. Maybe do a little bit of a sketchy research on it and get back to the people. Anyway, we then hijacked the signal tower of the Miracle Channel and are broadcasting right across Canada via cable and satellite. We also are being carried down in central Michigan on the GNS TV, all around the world on the Genesis Science Network, and of course on the internet on Rumble and YouTube. Now remember, if you get lost in cyberspace, you can find us at genesisweek.com, or on Rumble channel, or on the YouTube channel at wazulu.com. Now, I'm your host, Al Vachon, with my co-host, Ian Juby. Now, where'd you set up your studio this week, Ian?
Well, it's not in the abandoned railroad tunnel, which, by the way, that is a true legend. Apparently, there is an abandoned railroad tunnel underneath Ottawa. Some people have seen it, and apparently there's even abandoned rail cars in there still.
So I just made up a story that I'm not really in an abandoned railway tunnel.
We tend to do a lot of those.
Yeah, it's great. I love it. If I had a green screen, I'd actually put the train in some kind of tunnel or something behind me.
That's right. Just the headlight coming at you.
Yep. So today is Friday, February 2nd, 2024, and we're going to pick up where we left off in the Wallum Ullum. Now, I think we're in chapter 3 now. Is that right, Ian?
I think so. I've kind of lost track now. We've covered so much. Oh my goodness.
We have.
Thanks for everyone for joining. I see a pile of people in the chats. And 1 second, I will add the slides to the stage. There you go. But I see a whole mess of people in the chats. Thanks for joining us. We appreciate that, and for your patience of putting up with all the technical issues we've had. So, at any rate, we're going to pick up where we left off. You guys are already familiar with the Wallum Ullum. For those of you not, well, you can catch the previous 5 episodes, I think we're up to now. So, but we're going over these historic prayer sticks from the Lenape tribes. I got corrected on that. Did you see that, Al?
I did. Let me just bear with which one? The Lenape tribes, yes.
Yes. I had a whole pile of people telling me it's because I kept pronouncing it Lenape for like the first 4 episodes or 4 or 5 recordings because we recorded it live. So I made the same mistake. Yes, multiple people put me in my place, but that's okay. I appreciate it. You would think I would have figured it out too, right? With all my studies of the First Nations languages, I should have clued in, but alas, I did not. So, okay, so we're going to take a look at Book 2. So Book 2, we're just going to go down the verses again. If you remember, we left off with the creation story, the Lenape. Now I'm really going to mess it up. The Lenape creation story, which got pretty wild. You could see calls to the Trinity in Gitche Manitou, the creator. But it's about to get wilder still. So the very first verse here, and for those who missed it previously, let me just explain very quickly what I'm doing here. So these prayer sticks, these glyphs, are sung with verses to a song. And so way back in 1833, C.F. Rafinsk is how you pronounce his name. Rafinsk published these sticks, these prayer sticks, the drawings, the original song, and his translation of it. In 1885, Dr. Brinton reevaluated it. He examined the whole thing. He looked for things like, is it a hoax? Is it a forgery? Is it even accurate? And he retranslated parts of it that Rafinsk had clearly gotten wrong, and added in his own translation as well. And that I highly recommend, if you get a chance to read Brinton's book as well. It is available online for free, so you can get a copy of it. And then in 1995, Julie Hedin, once again, I will say it again, kindly gifted us this book, which was very hard to find. And a few people were writing in asking why it was so hard to get a copy of the book. Well, I think it's just because it was in demand and it's out of print. I think it's the only reason. It's just really hard to find a copy. And Julie kindly got us a copy, gifted us a copy. So that was 1995. And he actually made his own prayer stick replicas, an entire set. And then he retranslated it as well. So we've got 3 different translators, and then my own translation is thrown into the mix as well. So what I'm showing you here, these translations of these verses, this is kind of like a Frankenstein. So I'll explain as we go along, but this is basically all 3 of these guys and myself. I basically tried to bring all of the different translations into agreement. And if I had a disagreement, or if there was a disagreement among them, I tried to explain why I came to that, and you'll see me do that again tonight. So anyway, very first verse, book 2. So this is now after the creation story. And it's long ago, in the time of the strong serpent, men were with beings that had become evil. And then verse 2, and you can see the serpent there in both drawings. The strong snake was a foe to the ancestors and troubled them. The ancestors and strong snake hated each other and caused each of them grief. They both fought, did wrong. They both had no peace. And divided and driven from their home by murderers, fighting and bloodshed. And this was really a really difficult one to deal with, because this word murderers, it's the word nehentuit. And none of the translators seem to deal with that. Rafinks, for example, translated it as dead keeper, or a keeper of the dead. And what was really strange, though, was this to wit at the end. That, again, remembering the Lenape, Cree, Ojibwe, Algonquin, all of these languages, they're polysynthetic. So what that means is, it's agglutinating. So they basically take words and join them all together to make bigger words. And so that to wit word, it implies a deity. And to be honest, I don't know what to do with it. So, so I'm just mentioning it in passing. That word to wit implies that Nehentuit is a deity of some kind. This murderer, whatever it is, was some kind of deity or god. I don't know what to do with that. I'm just mentioning it in passing because none of the other translators noted this. So take it for what it's worth. So moving down the verses, the strong snake, or serpent, depending on how you want to translate it, The strong snake firmly resolved to destroy men and living things. The black snake brought rushing water and a sea monster. Now, in this glyph here, that's the glyph for the sea. And I noticed Brinton brought out the word Nakoa, which implies three. Now, Rafinks translated that word as black snake. It might be a snake, but there's something different about it. It's a very unique word. And I could see the struggle going on, and I wound up going with sea monster, partly because there's the symbol for serpent, and it's on the sea. But Brinton also pointed out these three vertical lines, which are probably people in the glyph. And so he was looking at this word Nakoa, which implies three people or three beings, and noted that you've also got three vertical lines in the glyph. So again, I don't know what to do with that, to be honest with you. But this is the way I translated it and tried to conglomerate the different translations. So the black snake brought rushing water and a sea monster. So we are now getting into the introduction of the flood legends. Oh yes, okay, so McCutcheon, in his book, page 61, if you are reading this, I had to quote him because of what he wrote about this particular glyph. So what he wrote was, so this symbol suggests a primordial battle between the corrupted successors of the original humans of Book 1 and the uncorrupted element that later became the Lenape of Book 3. So this is really fascinating because what he's saying here, and McCutcheon's just a secular guy, but what he's saying here is that this glyph, as an introduction to the flood legend, it's already differentiating between the corrupted people that were going to be destroyed in the flood and the uncorrupted ones that were redeemed through the flood. So we're even already starting to see a hint in that even the secular people are seeing. It's pretty amazing.
Right.
So next verse. Much water, rushing and rushing, penetrating the land, filling to the hills, destroying and destroying. They repeated several of the lines in the song. And there's a weird oddity I want to point out for those of you who are venturing into these studies on your own. McCutcheon actually has this drawing upside down in his book. And I'm not sure why, if it's just an error or if he had some reason to believe that Rafinks had it upside down in his book. Because to get these glyphs, what Rafinks did was he basically did tracings of the prayer sticks on paper is what he did in his little notebooks. And Brinton was the one who actually got a hold of Rafinks' original book with the pencil tracings. So did Rafinks get it wrong? Because it radically changes the meaning of the glyph. Whereas right now, you've got this, there's the snake or serpent, which is in the water of the sea, because that's the glyph for the sea. And this would be the glyph for an island in the sea. So again, what do you do with that? McCutcheon didn't explain why he had this glyph upside down in his book. So I'm going to go on the assumption that it was just an error in his book, that somehow it got transcribed upside down, I guess. I don't know. So I will mention that in passing anyway. But this way, the way the glyph reads, because if you flip it upside down, now suddenly this is the sea and this is the hill. And so the serpent is on the hill, not in the water. So it radically changes the meaning of everything. And it doesn't really line up with the verses of the song that go along with the peristics and the glyphs either. So from all this, at Turtle Island was Nanabush, the strong hair, the grandfather of beings, the grandfather of men. And I don't know if everyone's catching this or not, but pay close attention. It's not just the grandfather of men, but notice they're already associating Nanabush as the grandfather of animals as well, which is interesting. Because he is going to be the one who basically saves animals and people from the flood, as we will see. Now, this whole concept of Turtle Island, which we've discussed at great length here, I've swapped it out here for the word Tula, and that is the original word. And the reason I'm swapping that out is because it's unusual. It's while most of the translators are translating it as turtle or Turtle Island, I'm going to go with the word Tula because it's not a turtle. It's attributed as a turtle or described as a turtle because the word, it implies turtle. But my question here is, was the Ark of Nanabush, or the floating vessel, this is what it appears to be called. So did they name the floating vessel after its builder, its creator, the person who got it, Nanabush? Regardless, I'm going with the word Tula because I don't want to translate it as turtle, even though that is the implication. So the Tula was created, ready and finished to move and dwell. So whatever this thing is, if you want to call it a turtle, fine. Whatever this thing is, it was created, ready and finished to move and dwell. A very strange combination. Now, in light of, if you look at this in the light of scriptures, we look at that and say, oh, well, that's the Ark of Noah. Well, basically Noah finished building the ark, got it ready to both move and to dwell in, for both himself, the people, and the animals, right? So it's a dwelling, if you will. Am I making sense there, Al?
Absolutely. It's actually intriguing.
Okay, cool.
I should let the listeners know this. Many of the podcasts, I'm not privy to this information. Perhaps some of you are, and some of you are not. So I'm learning as I go, and this is fascinating.
I keep it a secret from Al.
Yeah, I'm always kept in the dark. I'm still in that tunnel with the train.
Yeah, that's right. And the only headlight is the one off the train. This is not good. No.
Pretty much.
So, next verse. The next verse, beings and men all went forth through rapids and shallow waters downstream to where the Tula was. So the flood is coming on, the great flood that it's starting to talk about here. So notice it's both animals and people, not just people. So both beings and men fought through the rapids and the oncoming floodwaters to get to the Tula, whatever the Tula is. Okay, next verse. There were many monsters of the sea which ate some of the people. This is very unusual, but I agree with the translators on this one, that word monster, when you look at the original Lenape words, it does imply something more menacing than just fish of the sea, you know? It does specifically imply sea monster. Whatever that is, well, I don't know. Your guess is as good as mine. This is also interesting. So the spirit daughter came and helped with a boat. She helped all as they came and came. So lots of people and animals coming, and the spirit daughter, whoever that is, helped to bring them to the Tula. Okay. And now we get into the songs talking about the grandfather of men. Nanabush, Nanabush, the grandfather of all, the grandfather of beings, the grandfather of men, the grandfather of the Tula. Very, very interesting. And as we saw a few episodes back, even Rafinsk was pointing out Nanabush is Noah. Even he said so. So Nanabush, or Noah, is the grandfather of the animals, the grandfather of people, and the grandfather of the Tula, whatever that Tula is, the floating vessel that saved everybody. Kind of fascinating. Anyway.
The Complete Creation video series is just that, an exhaustive look at the science, philosophy, and theology behind the creation-evolution debate. In this 40-part series, Ian Juby walks you through the debate, starting with the philosophical premises and limitations of science, then the surprising history of evolutionary and deep-time beliefs. You then walk through the evidence for creation from biology, geology, physics, paleontology, and archaeology. Chances are, any questions you have about the creation-evolution debate is answered in this video library. The series is both entertaining and educational, and suitable for personal study or homeschoolers. This 40-part series is available on a 20-disc set in either standard definition DVD or high-definition Blu-ray, and is on sale now. Order your hard copies today online at our store at ianjuby.org.
Mail for me? Ah! Yep, that's the one. East Vietnamese jumping spider. The venom is so strong that one bite can kill any child and 95% of adults. The surviving 5% typically slip into a coma for 3 to 6 months, only to wake up with permanent paralysis.
But you know, we also have a letter that came in from K&L, emailed us from Alberta, and if you'd like, I can take a moment and read this one to the audience as well. It says, "Hello, Ian. Really enjoy your show and the research you put into it. My wife and I caught some of the Red Record episode on Turtle Island. Very interesting to us. I grew up in an area with a medicine wheel and many other archaeology sites. Since we enjoy looking at and finding ancient sites, to us it is interesting that ancient rock cairns, such as ceremony sites and graves, are in that round turtle back shape and generally not elongated. Now, we have seen a few cairn effigies that were built resembling a turtle. In one of your flood episodes, you mentioned granite stones, completely covered with small surface fractures, floodstones. Well, I have a few handheld size artifact floodstones that have been worked into distinct turtle shape with the outer fractures on the top shell side. Clearly, the turtle was a very important symbol in ancient culture. Also, what's interesting is that the cairns are mostly found on high and dry hilltops and rises. Now, I can't help but think if or how some of these sites, in some cases, may be in any way symbolic of the Great Flood, Turtle Island. Two curious minds, K&L.
And thank you very much for writing in. That was it was a long letter, but I wanted to include the whole thing because even though I don't really have a response, other than to say that's fascinating, I was not. This is the first I'd heard of cairns in the shape of a turtle. So I want to pursue that some more. So maybe next time I'm out in Alberta, I'll harass them and we can go investigate some of these. I'd be curious to see that because, like I shared in a previous episode, the first time I saw an Indian burial mound, I was floored. It's a pyramid, complete with steps going up, just like the Incas and Mayans, only it was made out of dirt instead of stone. You know,
Which is
it was
remarkable.
clearly, yeah, it was a pyramid. I had no idea.
It's funny you mentioned the pyramid, kind of like the Incas, because I should have taken note of it and I did not. But just the other day, I saw an article about newly newly found pyramids, very much like the Inca pyramids, that have not been excavated yet. But by the layers from an aerial view, they can see it had the very distinct shape of the Inca pyramid. So now the next step is to get the permits
Hmm.
and to do an archaeological dig to actually discover what's below. But it's amazing that these things
Right.
are found around the world.
It is. Okay, well, tell you what. Why don't we close out this show?
Absolutely. Well, first of all, we want to say thank you to each and every one of you listening today and watching, sharing, posting, and perhaps inviting your friends and family to join along with us. We really appreciate the support. And for those of you joining us in the live recording, please stick around as we're going to go right back into recording our next episode. For those of you joining us via television, please join us again next week as we continue our fascinating journey through the Red Record. Also, please follow us on social media to find out when we are recording these shows live so you can participate in these chats and maybe get your questions answered on the air. But for now, we'll leave you with our television viewers with these words of hope and warning from our Creator, the Lord Jesus Christ, who said, I am the way, the truth, and the life. No man comes to me or to the Father except through me. So this evening, we want to thank you all for joining us. On behalf of Ian and myself, God bless, and I hope you have a great evening. You can send your comments, questions, hate mail, and letter bombs to us in a number of ways. You can email comments at genesisweek.com, or you can tweet at GenesisWeek. Or leave a comment on CORE's Facebook page at CORE Ottawa. Or leave a comment on the appropriate show available on either the Rumble channel, rumble.com/user/IanJuby, or on the YouTube channel, which you can easily find by going to wazulu.com, that's Ian, and that'll take you straight to the YouTube channel. But just remember, these shows are now recorded live, so you'll want to search out the show under the Live tab. We need your support to keep this program on the air, so please pray for us. And if you wish to financially support the program, Canadians can make a tax-deductible donation via PayPal online at ianjuby.org/donations. Or you can mail a check written out to CORE, Canada North, Post Office Box 72075, Ottawa, Ontario, Canada, K2K2P4. And thank you for your support.